Governor, thank you for joining me. I guess I want to start with what you need as a governor in Maryland. What are the needs that you have right now? What are the most pressing needs?
Well, my needs are the same as just about every other governor in America. I mean, Chris, I'm the chairman of the National Governors Association. We had our seventh phone call today with all of the nation's governors as we're talking about the same kinds of things that you were just talking about in your lead-in. Everybody is short on testing, on all of the various things like respirators and masks, and we've all got requests into the federal government, and all of the states are taking action to try to find these things on our own, and we're also pushing the federal government to get more help. Now, the good news is we are starting to get some after not getting a lot. So, many of the states have now gotten a portion of their requests. So you talked about Governor Pritzker getting a small portion. We got some of our requests here in Maryland, as did most other governors across the country. But most of the volume is now going to those states with the biggest problem, like New York and California and Washington. The bottom line is there really is a shortage nationwide. Governors are trying to do everything they can to step up and respond in their states, and we're also pressing the federal government to provide more assistance to us and to get some of these things out here to all of us in the states on the front lines.
Yeah, I guess on this coordination question, I mean, there's two issues here, right? There's a supply limit. That's the real problem. I mean, we just do not physically have enough ventilators in the country at the moment. And how you apportion them is a grim kind of triage, right, between the states, because the life of someone from Maryland is as important as the life of someone from New York. But if you're the governor of Maryland, you want it for your citizen. Like, how is that being worked out?
Well, so FEMA now, as of last Thursday or Friday, is in charge of trying to get those limited supplies out to all of the states. And while no state got their full request, or nobody was able to get the kinds of supplies that they needed, there was an apportionment out to, I believe, all of the states. None of it was adequate enough, and we're all trying to supplement that with our own individual activities on the open market, both domestically and from other places around the world. But, it just doesn't, it's not that helpful to point at where the thing broke down. The bottom line is right now in America, we do not have enough of these supplies, and we're trying to get, the governors are trying to get both the federal response ramped up, but also, just trying to figure out a way for the federal, state, and local governments to all kind of get on the same page. We're all just trying to save people's lives. I mean, that's really where we are at this point. We're not, what did we do wrong yesterday, but what can we do today and tomorrow to try to do a better job?
Let me ask you this coordination question, and then I want to ask you about the sort of decisions you're making there. You talked about the National Governors Association. Is there a daily call? Is there a call that the governors are all on every day, and who is engineering that? Like, what is that? Because right now you've got this situation where it's almost like a time traveling situation, right? Andrew Cuomo can talk to folks back in Minnesota or Michigan and say, look, we're 2 weeks ahead of you. Here's what we need. There's communication that can happen there.
No, that's one of the few things that's working really well. So I'm the chairman of the National Governors. Governor Cuomo is the vice chairman. We've had ongoing discussions with all of America's governors, really in some cases more than 50 governors. We have 55, including the territories. We typically have nearly all of them on the calls. We had another one this afternoon. We have another one tomorrow with the president and vice president leaders in the administration. They're not on all of the calls. We have some with just the governors. And in addition to those formal ongoing discussions where there really is great collaboration and sharing of information and ideas between the states. And quite frankly, it's been tremendous to see the bipartisan cooperation among the governors. We're also having lots of one-on-one discussions and phone calls and texts back and forth. I've been talking with, dozens of my colleagues across the country on both sides of the aisle about here's what's happening in our state. How are you dealing with this? What problems are you faced with? How are we going to fix this? And so, it's a problem. We're all in this together, and it's amazing. But there's not a whole lot of Republican and Democrat stuff going on. It's about, hey, what can we do to help one another?
The president seems obviously anxious to sort of reopen the country. He's reiterated that. He talked about an Easter possibility. Today, he tweeted and basically said that it was the media that was the dominant force trying to get him to close the country and close off its economy so that would hurt his reelection chances. And as a governor who has to make these decisions about what to open and what to close, like, is that how you're making your decisions?
No, not at all. So look, I think that none of that messaging is helpful at all to any of the governors. But many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle are not happy with that kind of messaging. On Monday, they were talking about, we're getting near the end of the 15 days. So that would mean next week we're going to start opening. And then a day or two, then the next day, yesterday, they changed it to Easter, which was 2 weeks later. All of it is arbitrary. We're making decisions based on the facts on the ground and by listening to the scientists and doctors in our state. I'm talking to folks at Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland and NIH. And look, the bottom line is we're all ramping up, not down. And nobody sees the end of this in 2 weeks. We see it as, nobody knows the exact numbers. And as you pointed out earlier, the data is incomplete. But, we're going to make decisions based on saving lives. The economy is critically important, and we are concerned about helping people who are going to be out of work and helping those small businesses. But the decisions have to be first about saving lives, and then how are we going to help people get back on their feet economically? You can't just arbitrarily pick a date and say everything's going to be great.
All right, Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, thank you for making some time amidst all this.